Yes.
So I'll hand this over to you to do your formal introduction, and then we can pop back over to me and I'll give a rundown of where I am, and then we'll get started.
Wonderful. So my name is Josh Rook. I helped to start the Desmos Facebook page. I teach Spanish 2 and 4 in Richmond, Virginia, outside of Richmond, Virginia. I've been using, let's see if that's any better. Hopefully you can hear me now. I've been using Desmos since November or so. And a friend of mine actually introduced me to the concept. And at first, I was super hesitant because I've been using the stepping stone curriculum, loved using the Google Forms, and was just in love with that. Tried it, and after a week or two, I said, okay, I don't need to use Google Forms anymore. And after 2 or 3 weeks of using it, I was 100% sold, and it has made such a difference in my teaching this year. And one of the things that's most exciting to me about Desmos is the fact that I plan to use this for the rest of my teaching career. So that I plan to use this once we go fully back in person, or whatever next year may look like. And it's something that I feel like investing the time and effort in some of these activities is worth it, not just for this year while I'm in this crazy hybrid schedule, but also going forward. I also teach mindfulness and love practicing mindfulness and mental health practices as well. Can you all hear me? I got a couple. Is the volume okay? Okay. So what I thought I would do on my end is maybe try and monitor the chat, and anyone else who, it sounds like there are a bunch of you who have used Desmos before. So if, as people have questions, we want to respond, please feel free to respond to other people's questions. Just like the Facebook group, this is a collaborative effort where it's not, we're all in this learning together. So the one thing that I thought I would share, just in case you all have not seen it, is there's a document that we've put together, actually a number of documents, how-to documents with FAQs, getting started, etc. And I thought I'd just share that in the chat, and then you can have that as well. If at some point you'd like to click in there, or if you're not part of the Facebook group, you're welcome to join the Facebook group as well. And with that, Hillary, yeah, please feel free to take. I'll turn my microphone off, and then if you want to share your screen whenever you're ready, and you all enjoy.
All right, wonderful. And I'm assuming everybody can hear me okay. Is that correct? We're good? Yay. Okay. All right. I plugged in my handy dandy microphone, so hopefully it will make things a little bit better. But my name, as you might have figured out by now, is Hillary Buckner. I am teaching in the Deep South as well. I am in Upper East Tennessee, about, I guess, 7 hours south of Josh. I teach in a rural school system, Greene County Schools. And I teach Spanish 1, 2, 3, and 4. So I'm currently I do 1 and 3 right now in the fall, and then 2 and 4 in the spring. And I am kind of tiptoeing into preparing my kids to take the Apple test at the end of this month in order to achieve our Seal of Biliteracy that's offered via the state of Tennessee, the Vol State Seal of Biliteracy. So I'm like scared, but hopefully I'm leading them in the right direction. And let's see, like Josh, I teach yoga at school when we can do it. So I'm an avid yoga practitioner. So we have a mandate here in the state that our students have to spend a certain amount of time performing physical activity. And usually they're just asked to walk. And I thought that it would be a bit more dynamic if, as opposed to walking, we let children explore yoga and meditation and mindfulness too. So we're very similar where that's concerned in terms of our roles within our school. I think that's probably good. So you know who you're dealing with. I am like, I kind of have a squirrel brain. All right. If you know anybody like that, I have a lot of energy and I tend to move pretty quickly. So if you need me to slow down or you need me to re-explain something, reach out to Josh and he'll be like, hey, Hillary, chill for a minute. Let's stop there. Right. So I'm going to go ahead and begin the presentation. And the first thing I was going to show is literally just how to get to Desmos. All right. So I've got a few tabs already open up here. Everybody give me a thumbs up if you can see like my screen, right? Okay, great. So I thought I would, thank you, Barbara. Okay, so I thought I would show you like the difference, right? I remember Josh did this. So if you initially type in desmos.com, I think this was where people are maybe like, oh no, like this is a math thing. What am I going to do? What's this for? If you inadvertently type in desmos.com, you can just go to teachers here and that will get you where you need to go. Let me log myself out here actually. So I went ahead because I would always type in teachers.desmos.com. I could never train myself to do it the right way. So I went ahead and bookmark teacher.desmos.com here for myself. And when you go to teacher.desmos.com, it takes you to a page that looks like this, still very mathy, right? At this point, if you've not created an account, you would click on create account. Since I already do have an account, I'm going to simply sign in for you guys, right? And I just did it with Google because I find that signing in with Google is way easier. I don't have to think about anything or type anything. And then I felt like this would be a good time to mention this little section right here that pops up in the right-hand corner. So you see my name in all caps, my email address, and then underneath that you see Desmos Labs, account settings, send feedback, and sign out. So I'm going to click on Desmos Labs here, because this is going to be important for some of the activities that I'm going to show you in the future here during this webinar. I clicked geometry just because I wanted to. I figured I might play around with it and make some...
Sorry to interrupt, Hillary, but are we supposed to be seeing your screen?
Yes, are you not seeing my screen?
We are not.
Oh, okay. What are we seeing? Okay.
Hillary,
Linda,
I see it.
okay.
I see your screen.
Okay. So you see me back here.
I can see your screen.
3, maybe full screen. I don't know. No. Okay, so you guys saw that I was on the actual Desmos page, correct? Yes. Okay. Alrighty. So okay, perfect. Okay. Thank you, Frau M. All right, perfect. All right, so let's go back to what I was saying. Okay, so as I was saying, when you go here, oh, and now it's disappeared. No, there it is. Okay, great. So what you will need to do is go into Desmos Labs and most importantly, click on the student image upload. This is what was just added within the past, I think like 48 hours with from Desmos Central, so to speak. That's going to allow your students to, I think, because I haven't used it because it's brand new this weekend, I think it's going to allow them to not only upload a saved image from their computer as a submission, but it's also going to allow them to, I think, take a picture too. I think. So this is going to be the part that we kind of play around with today. So go ahead and click the student image upload once you get to that particular area. All right. Another little, I think, helpful tip is once you open a tab, I would suggest opening up another tab. And this is going to be very, very helpful when you create your activities, specifically when you are copying and pasting. So I have a few open right now, but usually actually I do use 3 because I teach 2 different classes. So I will kind of be looking in different places as I work through building my activity. Okay. Alrighty. So we've gone through create account, sign in, Desmos Labs, create classes. So let's go down this little tab right here. So I've already created classes, but I'm going to open up what my classes look like. I did a couple of different things. I have no planning. Ooh, I forgot to mention that. All right, I'm a party of one at my school. So I teach 3 sections of Spanish 2 right now and 1 section of Spanish 4, and pray that I have a chance to go to the bathroom at some point during the day, right? So I have created 5 different classes here. The 3 periods I have for Spanish 2, and then 1 whole group for our asynchronous days. Usually those are reserved for literacy days for me, so I will assign this to the whole class. And then I have my 1 period here. You notice that you can view the activity history for each of your classes. And I'll click on that with what it looks like for just Spanish 2. So you see, I don't have very many, but I have like my Garbanzo days, Locura de Marzo is there. And then a Platicamos, like a little like Let's Chat activity that I did during our assessments, kind of like a running activity, right? Okay, so back to manage classes. Each of the classes have a specific invite code, and then you can click on your class roster and it'll show you how to invite them. So I'm violating maybe their privacy right here, so let's just look at it really quickly. You can invite using a code. Okay, and they put that in that initial screen that I showed you at student.desmos.com. Or you can copy the link and send it directly to your students in the LMS that you use. I use Canvas. I know that some people use Google Classroom, but it works. You just I usually just create an announcement, or I actually have mine under a button in Canvas. So it depends on what works for you. Alrighty, so those are your classes. Now, after you have created your classes, you can delete members, but you cannot actively add members. They have to add by clicking on the link that you send to them, or they have to add by actually putting in that invite code. But I've noticed that sometimes kids will get into the wrong classes somehow, and I will just go in and take them out, right? Okay, perfect. I think they do not have to have a Google account to join. It gives them the option to join with the Google account, which to me is easier nowadays because they also don't have to remember what they typed in initially. But if they don't have a Google account, they can sign up, I believe, with any email address that is available to them. Okay, next will be activity history. I don't think we need to really talk too much about this. I usually go to a different screen in order to access my activities. Okay. And the only thing I'll mention here is that the activities are usually listed by the latest, the one that you've done the most recently, I guess. Okay. But I'll go in and use this to, search for a student, search for a grade. The next thing, I know I always see a lot of questions about collections. So I figured I would tell you all how I use the collections. As you can see, the activity history, it gets really, you can get really bogged down, a lot of stuff. Okay, it creates a very, very long list very, very quickly. Same with your custom activities. So the collections here, I have mine organized by weeks. So as I'm doing my grading, I can go in and see what day is there and what class is listed there. And when I want to go ahead and start grading, I will just click on it, and then it will take me to the activity sessions, and I will actually open my activity sessions by going through the collections, right? And I found that that's the easiest for my brain to wrap itself around in terms of the organization. But I think collections is where you can really either do it like I'm doing chronologically. You can do it by topic, especially for the elementary teachers. You can do it by unit or by chapter. It's really open-ended. And then the only other thing I'll show you here too is if you click on the 3 dots, you can share the collection in its entirety, which I've done in our shared Google Doc. or you can edit it. So you can add activities or add activities or take activities away from that too. Okay. Alrighty. So now on to the meat and potatoes of this particular webinar. It's where I'm going to actually you're going to watch me create a session, and then we will do the session together. All right. So in custom, before I open up a new activity, you will see all of the activities that I have created. I think this is where some people just get really like, it's a lot. It's a lot. It's a lot for me to really keep my head around. So adding them to those collections, I think, is really crucial here so that you don't get unnecessarily confused, right? Or unnecessarily bogged down in the hunt. So without further ado, let us go ahead and start a new activity, right? So you can either begin an activity from scratch, which is what I'm going to do here, or you can copy an entire activity and edit it to meet your needs. To do that, you would just go to a pre-selected activity and hit copy and edit, but I'm not going to do that today. So let's just do new activity, and then I will label this intro to Desmos. Okay. And you can put an activity description down there. You can also change the share settings. I leave it at link. That way there's no problem in sharing it with our students, and then we will create a new activity. Okay. Here's where the magic begins. Okay. I usually, this is me, this is my aesthetic. I usually like to start with just a plain media image, right? Something that introduces the activity with the title of the activity and possibly some objectives. Okay. So I went ahead and pre-created an image in Canva that was downloaded to my computer. So I'm just going to go ahead and choose that file to upload. And I just titled it Intro to Desmos. And then here, another good thing to pay attention to is these little 3 dots, right? If you click on those 3 dots, it will allow you to show the border, which I really honestly haven't figured out what that does yet, or allow for full screen. And I always select allow full screen because when you go to preview, and I'll preview this slide for you, it will allow the students to click this button up here and make the image larger for them, which I think is particularly good for our students that have Chromebooks or other devices with a small screen. So let's say you have your title and you want to just preempt the students with some objectives. You could leave it like that. I have lately been moving my elements underneath so that this graphic is a little bit bigger when they click on it. So let's see. So we can say our objective today, participants will be able to create a basic Desmos activity for instructional use. Okay, and previewing that, you notice that you have this, I may want to change this actually. You have the humongous graphic, and then you have the note right here. But if we actually change the position, which would be great because there's not a lot of text, you notice that the graphic becomes smaller. They can still make it full screen, and then the text is actually more accessible, right? Okay, so that's screen number 1, media upload. Screen number 2 will be a sketch, okay? And this is going to involve some of the newer features that Desmos has added. You saw how easy that was, right? You want to add a new screen, you just go here and you click the plus sign, and that automatically opens up or automatically adds to you a new screen. The sketch tool is right here. Okay, so you literally just click on sketch. Now you can leave this a completely blank sketch, or you can customize the background. and the background does not change. So you notice you can have an editable graph, which we definitely, I don't know, I'm going to say definitely, right? But you probably don't need the editable graph. But you can also add a custom image. And I am going to show you, okay, what that might look like. I've got one here, okay, that I used for students to discuss with me or draw for me what happened on their weekend, right? So up here, if you want to add an instruction or instructions for your students, you could say something like, sketch what happened this weekend. Alrighty. And then, okay, you can also, since they've added the text tool feature, I could say like include a description or dialogue in your sketch, right? Something of that nature that would prompt them to actually write within the sketch. Therefore, you don't necessarily have to put in a separate text box if you don't want to, okay? And what I'd like to do, this I'll preview for you as well. This is the part right here that I really want to see if I can change. I know there's a way to change it. So I will figure it out and I will post a video in the Facebook group as soon as I figure out how to add more colors, but I don't think it's crazy difficult from what I saw yesterday. Alrighty, so there's your sketch. Next thing we will do is we will add a text input box. And to add a text input box, you literally just go here to text input. And let's come up with a question. Let's say I want to ask you all, let's say like describe a poignant memory from your childhood. Okay. And here's another beautiful thing. Oh, here, let me just change it like this. Let's say describe. I'm going to take away poignant. I'm going to say describe 2 memories, okay, from your childhood. Do a little bit, kind of like a little deeper dive for you right now. And let's talk about the computation layer script. I am resolutely in love with what we can do and what we can accomplish by figuring out even surface level functions of the computation layer. This is something that Josh shared with me, and I've been using it in every single one of my activities ever since. So it used to be that you would have to put a note box. So let me show you this. Okay. Usually you would have to put a note box like this saying, number your responses like this. Okay. 1, 2. Okay. Just to have them differentiated for you when you go to look at it. With the computation layer in a text box, you do not need to actually include this particular note. So I'll show you what this would look like. Not bad, but we all have those students who, no matter how many times you tell them to number their responses, they just don't do it. So let's delete. Oh yeah, this is great to show. You can delete any component once you put it in there. You can't copy components from one screen to the next. I bet you we will be able to do that sooner rather than later within Desmos, because there was kind of like a pretty loud cry to be able to do that. But if you want to go ahead and have the text box numbered for your students, you can just click into this computation layer and you use the command initial text. If you just type in IN, it's going to pull up that sync for you. And you just click on it. Initial text. Then you will add a quotation mark, and the quotation marks are super important. Anything that you put inside the quotation marks will show up for the students when they see that particular component. So let's just say we want to pre-number it for them. I want it to say 1, 2, and this is the part, like don't Don't be scared of this. All this is really telling you right now is you need to make sure to put another quotation mark. Like the script that you want to show up has to be included within 2 quotation marks, right? And there we go. So that's now added to that computation layer in preview for you. Look, bada bing, bada boom. It is already numbered for your students. So I have used it for that purpose, and I've also used it for sentence starters or particular prompts in that feature, in that manner, right? Like kids who just need a little bit of oomph, okay, to get them to begin writing. It's really nice to have that feature in there for them. Okie doke. Next on my list is going to be one of my favorites. Okay, my favorite thing is the multiple choice question. And I have been brainstorming my ever-loving tail off, okay, about how to really like up the ante on using multiple choice or selection options within the class. So let us begin. I will sometimes write the question in a note just so that it's positioned differently on the slide. So let's do it for this one, okay? Let's just say, do you like pistachio ice cream? We'll give them a yes or no question, right? And I really love, like, you can just type in yes or no or C or no or we or no, I don't know what it is in French. I don't know. Sorry. Right? Or whatever you need there. But I really love like creating cute little canvas buttons to put in here as options. So I'm going to add a couple of images. And I am going to add a yes button that I have here. C button. Okay. And I'm going to add a no button. I'm going to go hunt for my no button. Here we go. Okay. All right. Okay. So there's that option there. And what's really cool is you can see down here that you have students asked to explain their answer. But for me, I'm like, I don't really want them to see that much English during my class period, especially in my upper levels. So I was really pumped to figure out how to change the explain prompt to the target language. I think it might be hidden right here, show student responses. I usually always have that clicked so that they can see some sample responses from their other students or from their other classmates, which you will see when we go through this activity. But this, I think, is the most powerful. So we're going to access the computation layer again. So we'll click on those little arrows, and this will be different. Okay, this will be different than what we put in the text input. The text input is initial text. This is explain prompt. And you notice I only put an E in there. It knows what you're going to do. Okay, it absolutely knows what you're going to do. And let's say I want them to explain why, simply why. I will write in Spanish, since this is supposed to be Spanish, okay? Or I would teach Spanish. Okay, I might just say porque, right? And then hit done. And that way it overrides the pre-programmed English explain prompt. And when they click on it, you'll see in the preview here, once they make their selection, you won't see it initially, right? Let's say that they do like pistachio ice cream, and then it'll pop up here in Spanish, porque. And then you'll have them explain, okay? Alrighty, so let's say we want to edit this for those who might not know what porque means. All right, there you go. Or students who might need a little extra help, or maybe you were teaching this on like day 1 or 2. Okay, there you go. Okie doke. So that is the multiple choice. Let me show you this too. So let's say that you've created a multiple choice and you want them to be able to choose more than one answer. You can go over here and you can convert it to checkboxes, which I think is really cool, right? It kind of saves you a whole lot of work. But we're going to add another one here that is a checklist or checkboxes only. And this has been really good for like using adjectives, using descriptors. to describe like the songs during March Madness. So I'm going to click checkbox, and I'm actually going to add a media box here too. And I'll show you why. So I'm just going to choose a file because this is how I've used this in my classes. Let's say I'm going to choose, let's just choose this picture of David Rees. Okay. It's coming, it's coming, it's coming. I'm uploading. Okay. All right. And I'm going to allow full screen just in case they want to see it in more detail. And I am going to add, here a few options for adjectives. Okay. Let's say, and I'll do this in English, right? Let's say artistic. Is he artistic? Is he tall? We don't know. Okay. Is he talented? Okay. Is he American? Okay. Is he Spanish? And I like doing this personally. I like giving wrong answers, okay? Because you can actually click on these checkboxes to indicate right answers for you. And when you get to the summary screen, it will tell you whether or not a student has selected something that is correct or incorrect in terms of that descriptor, right? If you're using it as a descriptor. So I know that he is artistic and talented. I don't think he's tall. I'm not really sure if he's tall. Okay. And I believe, I don't know. I don't remember if he's Spanish or not. Okay. I don't know if he's from Spain. I think he might be from Argentina. I don't really remember. The last time I looked him up was like last year. But I do know he's artistic and talented. So let's just go with that. And then one final thing here. Okay. There's another little like tiny deep dive that we'll do in the computation layer on a checklist screen. So let's preview this little guy. And you'll notice that again, in English, it says select all that apply. And I don't want that, right? I wanted to say something different. So if you go into the computation layer documentation here, you can on this screen just write prompt. And again, it knows what you're doing. And in quotation marks, you might say selecciona todo que aplica. Okay, and done. And then when we preview, look, okay, it changes it to Spanish, okay, or whatever language you need it to be in. So this is really helpful when you're copying slides from other people or copying screens from other people, because you can just kind of like creep into their computation layer and change the English to Spanish and make any activity very copacetic to what you're trying to accomplish in your class. Okie doke. So after checklist, I wanted to show you a note with a link. So sometimes I will redirect my students via a note, and I'll put something like this, like click here to be taken to this site where you will read about cars. I don't know, okay? Something of that nature. And you can go to any website. So let's see, let's say coaches for carros de Cuba. Maybe we can find something there, carros de Cuba. And let's say we want them to read, okay, about los coches clásicos de Cuba. Go up here, Control C. You can totally copy, right, the website here, okay, and then you can, alrighty, and then select the place that you want to insert the link, and it might not let me do it because I am sharing. It might be covered up here. I'm gonna hide that. Yay. Okay, all right, I can hide it. Yay, 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 yay. Okay, and then right click and paste. And then save. Okay. And I saw where James just mentioned that the computation layer might be like I would say above the viewer's head. I wouldn't be scared about it. I'm just showing people in this particular webinar or viewers in the webinar, like how you can add it, but it is incredibly not necessary, right? It is not necessary at all. This is actually pretty simple, and you don't have to have any kind of specialized knowledge whatsoever in order to make this work the way you need it to work for your class, okay? Alrighty, so there's your little link, okay? And you see how easy that is. If you want to change this from bold, like from regular font to bold, you can, right? So you could bold this whole thing, you can italicize this whole thing, and I believe there's also a way to change the color, but that's not really necessary in the note. Alrighty. Now's the time that I am really, I think this is going to be the best for everyone. And that is the ability to copy screens from other activities that you have found. So it's super easy, okay? First off, you can literally just Control-C here and Control-V, okay, if you need to, once you have copied something. But I am gonna go in and I want to raid my own collection here. Okay, so I'm gonna go into my custom activities. And I have something here that I've kind of like selected for this particular webinar. So to grab something from an activity that you already have, you'll just open that activity and then here, go to the 3 dots and you will edit your activity. Then I want to snag this one. Okay, I want to snag this particular question. So I'm going to hit Control-C, and then I'm going to go back into this particular activity and hit Control-V, and there you go. See how simple it is. This is a humongous time saver too when you are planning for the next day. And it's why I personally like to create what I've been calling repositories of questions. Like I've just been creating like huge collections of questions so that I don't have to do the creation piece. I can just go snag a question that I want for that day. Like if I'm doing weekend chat or I'm doing future tense chat or something of that nature, I can just snag it and it's already pre-built, okay? And let's see, another one that I want to grab. So if you want to go find them, you can just go back into your custom collection. I want to show you this particular whiteboard because I think it's awesome. Okay, so we will go in and we will snag this whiteboard. So Control-C, and we'll go into here and Control-V, and it just puts it right after the previous slide. And then I also want to show you like some really cool check-ins. And again, all you have to do is just copy and edit someone else's activity for you to get what you need. Okay, so let's do, I'm gonna edit this little guy. I'll edit this activity, and then I'm going to snag a cute, let's do a Homer Simpson check-in. Okay. And I'm going to put this one right here at the beginning. Okay. Okie doke. And lastly, oh, I put that in the wrong spot, so I'm going to drag it down to the end here. Let's say you want to put a button in for submission. I have pre-created some buttons, but you can just go down here and you can add a button, okay? You can just call it submit, whatever you'd like. You can also edit the computation layer on this. And again, for future sessions, I can show you how to do that. But for now, we're just gonna put a little button in, and then let's add, I'm gonna add another screen. I'm gonna add a text input. And I'm just going to say, find a picture makes you happy, or share a picture that makes you happy. With the photo upload, And then my last little thing that I like to do is a table. But in order to not be overwhelming, I am not going to do the computation layer aspect. I'm not going to show you the computation layer aspect of this table unless someone wants to hang back on the webinar and ask me specific questions about that. But there are a couple things that I will mention. If you do decide to include a table, I usually label them. Like the first label will be the screen that I am pulling the information from. And then this label will be, let's say, student response. The thing that I think is the best to mention here is that if you do include a table, make sure that you click Format as Text. If you do not click Format as Text on your table, it will start writing in math script. And it also will not neatly put answers into the table. Okay, so I think that is where I'm going to stop in terms of some of the basic types of questions, the basic types of activities that you can have in some of the primary functions of how to build an activity. Let me go back to the meeting, okay? And Josh, is there anything before we start this, before we all go, is there anything else that you think I need to add that I have not added? Okay, I've added a lot, right? Okay, I've added a ton. So let's then go back into the activity, okay? And I am going to hit publish. Again, this is where I've seen a lot of people like, oh my goodness, I created this, I created this activity, I'm right here, and I don't know where it is now. If you do any kind of editing to anything that you've copied and pasted, you have to hit publish. Now, the cool thing though is if you do edit something that you copied and pasted, this has got a good cloud-based storage element to it, so it will save all of the work that you've done. But if you don't hit publish, it won't show up. The new title will not show up for you. Okay, so it may be a little difficult to find. So I'm going to go ahead and hit publish. And then we are going to play with this little guy. Okay, and you can see what it looks like from the teacher side of things. So to assign it for the purposes of this session, I'm not going to assign it to my classes because you guys, of course, are not in my class, but we're going to do a single session code. All right, and oh, this is new, okay? The code will be active for either 48 hours, 2 weeks, or 1 year. I am going to do, let's do 2 weeks. Let's give it a little bit longer. No, let's do a year. Why one? Security reason. Okay, 2 weeks. All right, so I'm going to create the invitation code. Alrighty?
Hillary, whenever you're
yes.
done, if someone had a question.
Okay. All right. Hit me. What's that?
The question said, it's from Desmos or from unknown. It says,
okay,
insert character prompt for accent. And I know with Spanish that you can just type in the accent. So I'm not 100% positive what they're wondering. If you want to unmute yourself and ask the question, you can, or unless you know.
I'm not sure.
Okay. For French, there are a lot of accent marks, and in Google Forms, you need to like go on a Google Doc and type in the word and cut and paste. So I don't know when I'm on my MacBook at home, it's not a problem. It's like an iPhone, but at school, it's a pain in the neck. So I was just wondering, Desmos, whether accent marks are there, whether you have to copy and paste.
I have had, I'll tell you, I've had my students just switch their keyboard on their particular device to the international keyboard, and they just use the alt, character key for it. I do know that there are a couple of students whose devices they could, for some reason, couldn't get it to work. It was like the ThinkPads. They had problems with the ThinkPads. And yes, okay, so Frau M says you can put the accented characters into a note and you can copy and paste it that way. Okay. That's a really great hack. Also, I know that you can, Google Chrome has an extension as well. There's an accent extension that can live on your toolbar. So I think there's a few ways to work around that without having the accents readily available in an element of Desmos itself. Okay?
Yeah, that extension doesn't work on like the forms and things like that. It works in slides and docs. And then more question since you're on.
Mhm.
With the Google Forms, there's been a problem where we had this thing Go Guardian where you can see the kids' screens.
Mhm.
And they're
Mhm.
like, there's something that pops up where they can translate the entire thing into English right away. They
Mhm.
don't have to copy and paste into
Mhm.
Google Translate. Is there, can they copy and paste stuff from here into Google Translate, or is there any, like, that's a big problem with this?
My workaround for that is like when I did my reading assessment, my last reading assessment, because I go on, like I think a few are answering the same thing that I'm getting ready to say. I type onto a Google slide and then I download it as an image, and then I upload it as an image into Desmos, right? So that media upload button that you saw me use, just download it to your hard drive and then boom, pop it in there, and they cannot copy and paste.
Okay, so for reading, I've done that, but for questions, I haven't. And after I saw them cheating on the, I saw a kid just last week, translated all the multiple choice stuff. So you're saying, like, in the question part, you can put that as an image as well.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So in Canva, I don't know if you know, Canva's free for educators, right? So if you have a Canva account, that's a really easy place to just quickly create a set of questions. If you, and I can show this maybe at a later date, but what I've done is like create multiple images in Canva. It downloads it as a zip file. You just unzip it and you can boom, 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 pop it right into Desmos in about like a minute.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, it's not hard at all.
Okay. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. No problem. Alrighty. So let's go to actually, or before I go back, does anybody else have any questions while we're kind of at a pause here? I'm gonna take a drink of my San Pellegrino. Are we good? Okay. Alrighty. Let's pop back over then to the actual activity. Alrighty. Okay. All right, cool. Okay, so we have our little sessions, and let's see. So the session code, and Josh, you might want to type that in, okay? Because, well, maybe I can, let's do this, okay? Alrighty. So if you go to student.desmos.com, you can just type that in, right? I can also copy this, and I can put it into the chat, okay? So let me just copy it into the chat, and there you go. Okay, and you can join immediately like that, all right? And what this is going to give you guys, I'm going to close this out because I keep clicking on it. What this is going to give you all an opportunity to see is what it's going to look like on your end once we go through these particular questions, okay?
Hillary, can I make a quick suggestion here? If folks are not, if you're interested, if you don't have two screens, this might be the time to on your phone or to on another screen to open this. So you can simultaneously be looking at Hillary's view, which is the teacher view. And I'm sure Hillary will say this, but we don't always show the teacher view. And then also the student view, which I think this is where the real magic comes in. So
absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. Alrighty, so I'm going to close. Well, I'll leave that up for just a second as everybody comes in. I've got little cat hairs on my computer. Okay, all right, let me close the little dialog box, okay? And then we're going to go in and I'm going to view the dashboard, okay? All right, and it pops that up again, okay? So I'll close that out. And right now, I'm going to pause. So if you're already working, it should freeze you, right? And then while I've paused it, this is actually what I do whenever I create and assign. I go ahead and automatically pause the lesson until I have that class come in with me at that particular time. That way they haven't gone ahead and done everything ahead of time. I am also going to, for now, anonymize you all. Okay, which I think is really, really wonderful. If I want to like choose a couple of answers to profile and throw up on the board, we can talk about it and analyze it in the target language without putting anybody on the spot or putting them on blast. And then I'm going to show you how I pace, right? So I will usually pace my students through the first couple of screens. So I'm going to unpause it. so that you all can work. You can just look at the graphic and objectives and then perform our little how are you doing check-in. And you can see as soon as a student has interacted with the text or with the question, they haven't just viewed it, you will see this little dot pop up, okay? And you can also see how many students are where, okay? And redirect them on your end. If you are viewing this on your own device, if you noticed, you hover over the name and it'll pop up who it actually is, right? If you need to kind of surreptitiously walk over to someone or maybe private message them, you know, you can see exactly who it is, even though they are anonymized, right? And then if you yourself want to look at the summary, you can do it in this way. I'm muy bien, okay? All right. So ella escribió estoy en Colorado, okay? Pero bien, bien, bien. Okay. And then let's see here, teacher view. Teacher view will give you all of the answers in one spot, okay? And the teacher view is what I use to profile some answers. Like what I will do, and you've got the overlay here, which is really nice, okay? You can see individual responses, or you can do, this is really cute, okay? Or you can do overlay just to get a good feel for where everyone is. But what I'll do in class, I'll usually like make my screen a little bit bigger and I will display this on the whiteboard and we'll be like, okay, like, let's see, like excited to learn new features, like, Pythagoras is correcto or incorrecto, things like that, right? And then have them analyze each other's responses. And then the person, if they have made any mistakes, then they can self-correct before they turn it in formally, okay? So to pace again, let's now go into this sketch feature. Oh, we already have a couple of drawings, okay? Super cute, okay? So here, I want you all to not only sketch, but practice with that text feature. Click on the text box and add either a descriptor or add a little dialogue bubble and play around with the text. I know that if you click on it, you can make it like large, medium, or small. And as you can see on my view, I can see very quickly who is doing what. I'm moving. Okay, caught up on sleeve. Yay. Awesome, Pafnudi. Okay, yay. And then these are, I don't know how to pronounce half of these names either, right? Like Atlee Selberg. Hello. Okay. Joseph, miro Netflix. Okay, bien. Okay, todos mis estudiantes miran Netflix. Like that is a very common response for me, right? Or Disney Moss. Ahora, WandaVision. WandaVision is increíblemente popular, no? Oh, Jean got some grading done. Perfect. Okay. Una persona tomó clases este fin de semana. Okay. Una persona tomó café, somebody drank coffee, work, work, work. That is me in a nutshell right there. Isaac Newton, okay. Demonstrating profiling gravity, no? Okay, con la lluvia. Alrighty, so here, see how wonderful, right? Okay, absolutely wonderful, absolutely easy it is, okay? And then on the summary screen, again, you just have a really quick view of who is doing what. So I see that Eugenia has gone back, right? And going back and forth and looking, and that's really good. Like if you see students who need to access maybe some help that you've uploaded in a note from earlier, it's really cool to see them actually using those features and keeping track of who's doing what, right? So we see a few.
Hillary, there are just a few questions.
Okay, yeah.
Can you show a picture to everybody, which is kind of what you were,
yes.
On one. And then I think the other question was related to, do you, as a student, would they always be looking at all of the other students' answers, or kind of like what would it look like from a student view as they were doing this, and what would you be showing? And
okay.
The last question was, as a student, how do I submit? Which you don't have to submit anything; it automatically does.
Exactly. Exactly. Okay. Yes. Thank you for answering that question. So the awesome thing about this is, again, it's cloud-based, right? So as soon as you do anything in Desmos, it automatically saves it. So you don't have to formally hit submit on anything. Student view. So if I were doing this, as you can see, yes, like you could click on a particular student. So let's say you wanted to profile somebody, and I do like random selections of students. So if I wanted to talk, like use this to initiate a discussion in class, I could just randomly choose one of the numbers or randomly choose one of the students. And this is what you would see on the screen. And you can make it bigger, right? So if I'm projecting on my screen, there you go. They could see that. And then on a separate device, I would be looking at it from the teacher's perspective, maybe from this perspective, which is probably good just to make sure that they're not doing anything like really crazy in the sketch function, right? So you don't inadvertently throw something up there that you don't necessarily want someone to see. But does that answer the question? Yeah. Maybe. I hope.
Hillary?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
I just have a question. I'm just
Okay.
trying to put this in my brain here. I'll put
Okay.
this so you can see my face. Thank you.
Let me go and see. Yes. Krista,
I'm
okay.
just wondering when you're presenting this, then are you mostly just having them working individually, and maybe you'll show a student or occasionally, but are you mostly just kind of talking to them individually through Desmos? Or do you actually use Desmos to teach? Like you have it up there and you're teaching them as you're taking them through the slides. For some reason, I'm having a hard time wrapping my mind around that.
I've done both. Okay. So if I was doing this particular question in front of my students, I would probably on my end and what was displayed for the students, I would just have that summary screen up there, right? Just to kind of see, it's great for them to see that we can see who's with them and who's with me, right? Or who's with us. Then normally I'll tell you about my little setup that I have in my classroom. I mentioned this to Josh yesterday. So what I do is I have a few strips of tape, like washi tape on my desk, and I have numbered the washi tape, okay? Like 1 through 17, depending on how many students I have that day. And then I will take a little tiny white card and I have their name on it. And let's say I really want to know, like, ¿Qué hiciste el viernes? Right? Like maybe I've asked that question and I want somebody to talk more with the class specifically. So I will shuffle those white cards. I will put them out randomly to correspond with the numbers that I have written on the tape. And then I usually have a class picker, right? I have somebody who will give me a number. So I might say, hey, Rebecca, dame un número, por favor. And Rebecca might say cinco. So I'll pull cinco up, check like who cinco is, and then I will click on that person's response. So their picture is the only thing that's profiled. And I will say, okay, háblame un poco más de tu dibujo. Right? Like talk to me a little bit more, and then let them share out. And then I've really tried to get my students to think, I call it thinking journalistically, right? Because with Spanish 2s, we're trying to hit in that intermediate low area right now. So I encourage them to ask questions of the person sharing the information. Like if somebody says like, oh, yo dormí mucho, right? Anoche. I've got them trained to where they'll be like, okay, ¿por cuántas horas dormiste? Right? And so it becomes like a little mini interview. And at that moment, I am usually taking notes on paper. I have also used the computation layer that I showed you in the text box to pre-organize notes for them. I might say something like nombre de estudiante and apuntes, like name of student and notes. So as that particular profiled student is talking, part of their assignment for that day is to tell me who it is that's talking and give me the bullet points so that when we get to the write and discuss at the end, they don't have to like try to remember. They can go back within the Desmos and check to see what they took note of earlier that day. Okay, does that help you? Like visualize it? Okay, awesome. Okay, so let's go on to the next activity here, which will be describe 2 memories from your childhood. And I'll move this on to summary. So you can just see how that preloaded numbers work there for you.
And if y'all haven't noticed yet, I think one of the most amazing things is if Hillary were to click on the question 4, as we type, we can literally see, the teacher can see letter by letter what we're writing.
Yes, yes. So I see that like Ada Lovelace, for example, hasn't written anything, but Pafnudi, let's see. Okay, so nothing there either yet. Yay. Okay. All right. So let's.
I don't know if you
Hillary.
Number 4, the actual question. So click up there.
Yay. Now you can see everybody. Yes. Okay. Yay.
Hillary, can you show how you can just keep them on just one screen as well?
Okay. If you want to just keep them on one screen, you can edit the pacing. Okay. So you can edit this. Okay. I usually will just stop pacing and then I will restrict to screen 4. Okay. So if you only want students to work directly on screen 4 and not be able to go back and forth, then it will pull them to screen 4. And so what that tells me is whoever Pythagoras is probably left the activity, right? Because it did not, well, no, there we go. No. Then it pulled them. Perfect. Okay. Usually it'll just like, like pull all of your kids into that one question at any given moment. And you can modify it again. Like you can open it back up, right? If you want to. But there you go. Okay. And if you want to stop pacing, yay. I use this now. I'll tell you, I've really been using the pacing feature since I have been collating all of the data into a table at the end of my activities. I will paste it to the next to the last screen so that the students do not see the summary slide. That's just my information. And that has made grading like an absolute ton easier. And I would suggest to Josh, and I'm sure he's probably thinking this, we probably need to do a separate webinar to show how that particular function works, because it is a time saver and a half. It is amazing. So, okay, so you see how that that particular feature works. Now let's go into the multiple choice. Okay, do you like pistachio ice cream? We'll see too. Okay. All right. Okay.
Here, and I'll talk a little bit louder.
Okay.
What I normally do is, oftentimes what I do with my students, especially my lower level students, is I will just, as James was saying and you were showing earlier, just paste from one question to the next one. One question. To students being less likely to get lost on the slide. Like for me right now, I'm still on question 4. If I was paced into question 5, I would have no choice but to see that option there.
Yes. Absolutely. Okay. And I can do that. We can pull everybody right here. Okay. So let's go back into pacing and restrict your screen 5, and you'll see that, yes, okay, it pops everybody. And then you notice here with, I've been using this, I'll tell you, I feel I may get in trouble, I'm not really sure, but I've been using this particular feature to do a sort of betting. Like I like to put in little brain break slides too. And so I've put in a slide that I call it apostamos. And we normally chit chat. We'll have like a calendar chat or chit chat for about the first 15 to 20 minutes of class, depending on the pre-selected questions I have. And then I have preloaded buttons in a multiple choice screen that have point values associated with them. And I will then display a separate, like I'll show you here, like I will go into like my drive and I will pull up a blank document. Okay. I have like a running one, like a working document for accents and things like that too, right? Where we read Atun, okay? And a lot of stuff that I just type out. Barry Benson, a husky, yay. And then I will use a document like this. Let's see, okay? We have el chico salta sobre un televisor en el video, sí or no? Let's say that's a sample question. They will then use those multiple choice buttons to wager whether or not they know the answer. And I do class points. So if using my little randomized selection, I call on, let's say, number 7, and that person knows the answer and they've wagered 7 points, then the class total will increase by 7 points. And if they unfortunately don't know the answer, then the class total decreases by 7 points. Okay, so this feature right here has been really awesome for that particular type of activity. Okay, ay, muy bien, Marjorie, porque es yummy. Sí, okay. A mí me encanta este sabor de helado también. Okay, all right, here we go. And this is, I'm gonna show you the summary screen for this one for sure. Okay, so edit. Let's see, stop pacing. Let's restrict here. Okay, pacing. Restrict screen 6. Okay, in summary. Okay, this is what I want to show you. So, remember when I was creating this, I actually selected some right answers, right? So if a student selects only the adjectives, the way I have this set up that do actually match the picture, then you will get a check mark. Okay. Josh, are you in this activity or not? Or James, like, do me a favor, click on something that I did not select as the right answer. Let's see what happens. I'm going to show everybody what happens there. Do we see that somebody's interacted? Oh, there we go. Okay, so let's say a kid, because we all have these students as well. Let's say a student is just like, boop, 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 boop. Okay, I'm just going to click everything and she's going to give me participation credit for it. Well, no, okay, I want to see that you've actually thought about the right answer, right? What's actually going to match it. So it will tell you if somebody is just clicking to click, so to speak, or if they've gotten an answer wrong. So you can choose the right answer in a multiple choice. You can choose the right answer in a checklist, and that will give you the feedback that you need. Let's say if you're doing a true false type, a quick quiz, or something of that nature, some kind of, little mini summative assessment within the lesson, it will give you that feedback instantaneously, right? Okay, now, okay, just to let you see, you can see how that link works. There.
Sorry, someone asked, do you have to stop pacing in order to restrict them to a different slide? And I don't know, it took me a bit. I figured this out. If you click on stop now, and then just go back to the pacing and lock us into whatever, slide 7.
Yeah.
You might already know this, but if you click on that, you can make it lock into slide 8 by clicking on the little arrow to the right of that. Or the arrow to the right of that, to the left of where you are now.
I get really frustrated though. I get really, really frustrated. I like to go, I wish I could jump from slide 7 to slide 4, for instance. It's hard to do. It's really frustrating.
Yeah, the way I've been using it is I just, I'll start on screen 1, give them a few introductory questions, and as we move through the lesson, I'm just constantly clicking the plus so they know where to go next. But I also like having, for me personally, I also like having, giving them the opportunity, especially when I've put in those sous bene nivel notes or other vocabulary in other parts of the Desmos, for them to go back and access. So I think it all depends on how you have it set up for yourself, right? All right, perfect. Okay, so everybody should have looked at that website about los carros clásicos de Cuba. And then here, let us go into this particular question. Okay. All right, yay. And this is something that I totally stole from someone else. And all I did was, like I showed you earlier, I clicked on the Computation Layer script and I saw where they had written in English. I just kind of kept hitting preview and figured out which parts I needed to change in order to make it Spanish. Okay, so I'm muy bien. I think this is really nice. I like having, a visual. So Pythagoras, that's de Tennessee. Muy bien, okay? And Aristotle is del Norte. I think this is super great, right? At the beginning of the class, or the beginning of the semester, you can use this for getting to know you type questions. Or if you wanted to play around with asking them about cardinal directions, Okay, see? Then you could, okay. Muy bien, Emil. This is like, ¿Dónde naciste? Is where were you born, right? Where were you born? So yo nací en Louisiana. If I were doing this, I would be en el sur, okay, de los Estados Unidos, pero no. Okay, and I see that you can give me little purple dots, which is great. Okay, purple dots. So I can see like, that's probably what, like, if I am thinking correctly, you drag the dot to where you're born. So you can only position that one once, but then you can add other dots maybe to indicate other information. Is that correct?
Yeah, Hillary. So I'm not a Spanish speaker, and I answered this incorrectly.
Oh, no.
Not factually. Well, I know that doesn't matter. But
No,
if you're a student and realize, oh no, you know, I wasn't born in Charleston, South Carolina, where I live now. I can't change that.
No, you should be able to.
Okay.
You should be able to go click back on your answer and go back in and modify it, right? So as a student, let's just look at this one. As a student, let's see. Let me go as a student here. Okay, this is just.
I have no idea where the purple dots are coming from.
I don't know either. Okay, I've never really seen that one. I'm thinking it's just maybe a draw feature. So, but
I can't draw on it.
No? Interesting. Yeah, I've only been able to remove the red dots. So I don't know. That's a mystery that I'm going to solve after this is over, I guess. So let's see. Summary.
I had to reset. That's what I had to do. And that
okay. Usually if you hit submit
or everybody else's place of birth. Is that possible?
Repeat the question. I'm sorry.
I'm wondering if the purple dots we're seeing are our classmates' place of birth.
That is possible. That's possible. Yes, they are. Because, yay. Okay, you answered the question. Because some are not with us anymore, right? Possibly. Because you're seeing a few that might be with us on this particular question.
When
right?
I shared it with the class. When I shared it with the class, my purple dot would up on the other people.
Okay. Perfect. Okay. Share with class. And again, I don't think that's a mandatory feature, but if they hit share with class, it then gives the option for other class members to see their response, but they do not have to share with class. There you go. Okay. So thank you for helping us answer that question. Alrighty, so Notepad. Let's play around with Notepad. And I did not mean to stop pacing, but I'm going to do it again. Notepad.
Can I ask one question?
Yes, absolutely.
What was that name of that activity we just did? How do you do that on a slide where you can drag and drop?
That's a good question. I don't know. I call those screen raids. If I see something that I like I will go in and use that copy paste feature that I showed you, and I will just snag it out of somebody else's Desmos. So you can do that on any published Desmos. So I will sometimes, like in the Facebook group, the Desmos educators, like the non-language Desmos group, they will post activities that do all kinds of things. And I will just go in and snag them. And I know that's what I did with that.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Okay, so Notepad, yay. Okay, so you can see that you can change the different Notepad. What I'm thinking for this one here, okay, you notice that you can choose, right? You can choose lines or graph. If I were doing this in my class, or the way I'm going to use this in my class, is I would have the students go to lines. And I would use the lines as a place to do a dictado. So if you're with me right now, simply type, I am happy. Like make it a line, choose lines and not graph, and write, I am happy on the first line. As if we were doing a dictado. Yay. Okay, so I'm seeing Joseph come up. I am happy. Yay. This is another feature that I just saw right before this webinar. And I can see how this would be so, so wonderful for the dictados that I have been doing per Tina Hargaden's a natural approach to the year, right? Where you would have them write what they think they heard, then write what you display is the right answer, and then they can use that sketch feature to circle their answer. They can use it to kind of like highlight where they have their errors, okay? And then you automatically have it there for you without having to redirect to Jamboard, which is what I have been doing up until this beautiful thing was released this weekend. Okay. All right, so moving on. We only have a few more to explore. Okay, so 10. What did I do in 10? Is 10 blank? I think it's blank. I think I just accidentally put it. Okay, all right. So let's go to 11. And I want you to share a picture that makes you happy. And as a student, in order to share a picture, if you in Desmos Labs clicked that feature, then it will allow you to upload a picture. I don't think you can upload a picture if you did not go into Desmos Labs and choose that as a function. Okay, so let's see how this works. And if you have any questions right here, this one is fairly new to me, so we're all just kind of like playing around with it together.
I chose it as a function, but I don't see how I'm uploading it or I'm getting it.
Okay, we can't add a feature, can't add a picture. Because you saw it when I put it on there, right? You all can't add a picture. That might be, I'm assuming it's James that's speaking, right? Okay, it doesn't seem to be working. That is beta, so maybe there is an issue. I'm not sure. But did you see it whenever I put it in as a question? I thought I did.
No.
I'm gonna, okay. Because it should be that any text box, right? The way I understand it, any kind of text box that you put on there, it will allow you to upload a picture. Is that correct? The way you understand it?
Hillary, do you think it's because we're all in a student account now?
That, or it could be, you know what it could be? Yes, okay, it could be that y'all are not in a class, right?
Because I chose it on my teacher screen, but now I'm in a student mode, so that's I don't know, just guessing.
It should work if you're in a student mode though, because I chose it on my teacher screen, but it may be that what I'm thinking initially is it may be that it doesn't work with a single session code. It might only work if you've joined a class, right? So we'll have to kind of play around with that a little, or I'm going to play around with it this week with students to see how to get it to work. But the way I understand it is as soon as you add a text box feature, it automatically has, instead of that little math function, it's got a math function button and then a picture button.
Oh, yeah.
Upload it, right?
Yeah.
Do you see that on yours?
Yeah, I just made a new activity, and if you look at my screen, I have that right there. It's both.
Okay.
That's a text and a math.
Yeah, because it was there when I made it for this particular webinar.
Oh, weird.
Because I enabled it. So it may be that a single session issue. I'm not sure. But this will be something for us to maybe, like, I usually choose like my Spanish 4 class, which is a really, really good class. I might say like, hey guys, this screen may or may not work. Let's see, right? Let's play around with it. So just to see how it would work. But that's good to know that it's not necessarily foolproof. And then on 12 here is just for you to look. I'll restrict us to 12. I threw that table in there just for you to see what it looks like on your end versus my. I'm not going to pull it. Sorry, I didn't mean to do that.
Hillary, I just want to, because Daniela said that, Krista said they just looked it up, and it will only work if that function only works if you assign it to classes. And then I'll ask, where'd you get that Notepad and for some, and then Dance LKV said, for some reason I can't advance to the next screen. I think that's just because Hillary has you paste into the screen.
Absolutely. Yes. Okay. The Notepad, again, I stole it. Like I just saw it popped up today. There's like so much that's flooding in the regular like Desmos Facebook group since they put in that text tool. So that was something that I saw about an hour before this webinar, and I went ahead and copied it so that I could at least have it included in this Notepad. But the cool thing about Desmos is that you don't necessarily need to worry about where I got the Notepad. Since you have access to this particular activity, you can copy and paste this activity and snag the Notepad out of it, right? So there you go. It's actually kind of nice in that sense. Like I would have to share it, I think, as a teacher. So I can do that. Let me go in my other screen right now and I'll share it in the chat. So let me go into teachers as you guys are looking at that table. And I'll make sure that everybody has, and let's see, custom, intro to Desmos. I'm going to share activity, copy, okay, and then go back here, okay? And I'll send that in a message. Alrighty. So if you have access to that particular activity, you can go in and snag any of the screens that we have. And Mary, yes, you don't see anything on the table. I purposely didn't put anything in the table. I just showed you how to add a table. That's really kind of a next steps thing, in my opinion, because it involves a lot of code, right? To get the table to function as a data aggregator. So I figured I would just show you how to put a table in there. And then maybe later on, we can do a webinar on how to actually make it work in that sense. Okay. So that kind of takes us to the end of the activity with just basic types of questions that you can add on each individual screen, and know that you can put these screens, like you can make them very chock full of information. I know, Josh, you mentioned that your colleague, Brett Chonka, right? He just puts the blank screens up. Right. So he has like a running Google Doc that he will display to the students like, okay, question number 1 is this, and they just type in their answer. Right. I tend to be very graphic heavy. Like I love using Canva to create little cute like headers and questions that are already there for the students. And I just paste them through them. Right. And then, it's really, I've seen, I think Krista Love, she's got a lot of information that she puts into her slides, right? Like she'll have questions and then she'll like have images that she's put in there of like vocabulary, like body part vocabulary. So it's really just dependent on your style and how much you want to give to your students or how little you want to give to your students. But it is completely customizable in that aspect. Okay. So I think we can do questions, right? Anybody have any questions before we end? I tried not to go too deep. Okay, Johanna.
Last weekend I took an Nearpod webinar. Of course, they give you like a month free. But this one is like, and you have to pay I think like $12 a month or something like that. So have you used any of you used Nearpod? I mean, this one is free, so obviously this gets my attention. But how easy this is, because on Nearpod you can find all the activities. And when I was checking on Desmos for Spanish activities, it seemed like everything is private because there was nothing. Every time I typed something about Spanish, there was nothing coming up. And Nearpod has these hundreds of stuff already done for Spanish. So how do you get the Spanish stuff? Because there's nothing published. I mean, is everything that we're doing is private and that we're sharing?
It's not necessarily private. Some people might have their activities private, but I think this is kind of it's so new, right? Like using Desmos to do instruction or to lead instruction in a world language classroom is fairly new. I have found that it's very difficult for me to successfully search activities on Desmos, it seems like it's actually kind of hard to find exactly what I'm looking for. That's why like joining those Facebook groups is very crucial, and just kind of checking them periodically to see what people are sharing so that you can like just snag those activities and add them to your custom collection is great. As you mentioned, this is completely free. I haven't used Nearpod. I've used Pear Deck in the past, and I have used GoFormative too. And what I did at the beginning of this semester, I said to myself, like, I'm going to cancel those subscriptions if I end up seeing that Desmos checks enough boxes for me, because I would much rather not pay for something than pay for something. And so far, I've used GoFormative one time to convert a PDF document, and I didn't use Pear Deck at all. Like this is completely supplanted that, because you can take any Google Slides presentation and very quickly modify it to conform to a Desmos activity, because you can just go into a Google Slides document or a Google Slides activity and save each one of the screens as a JPEG or a PNG file, stick them into a Desmos as a media file, and then you can lead, like if you're doing a storytelling session or something like that, you can lead them through it, right? And you can have them do questions at the same time. So I have found that I don't find the need necessarily, even though there are a lot of ready-made activities, I don't find the need for spending that kind of money, right?
And also the other question is like, I have like 250 students. So, so that means I have like 15 classes. So do you copy it? I mean, I don't want to end like, I mean, I have four sixth grade, 3 fifth grade, you know, like, and so on. So do I have to copy, you know, to have my, how do I do that? I share the same link, and then I'm gonna have different students in that at that moment. Is that how you do it?
Yes. When I showed you how I do the activities, right? Like sometimes I will assign them to individual classes. Sometimes I will assign one activity for the entire group. But you can do that however you see fit. You can do the single session codes, but as you see, like some of the functionalities are lost when you do the single session code. If it were me, like I've taught exploratory Spanish in the past, like if I had to do, like I did kindergarten through 5th grade, so I would have like a kindergarten class all in one. I would have a 1st grade group, right? I would have a 2nd grade group, and I would just have a separate class for each one and a separate link for each one. That's how I would do it, just off the top of my head, right?
So all the 6th graders together, all the 5th graders together, like that. And then because they're gonna join at the time of the class, you're gonna have those people in that class.
Exactly. Yes. And you will only see those that are there at any given moment. And if they're not there, also Desmos gives you the option to hide the student. So if you only want to see those that are with you at that moment, you can go and click through and just hide the names, and it'll just say student hidden, and you're only seeing those that are in that activity at that moment.
Okay.
So yes. All right. Any other questions that you see, Josh? I'm not looking at the chat, so I have no idea. Okay, no.
My question before either got skipped, is it possible to change the mathematicians' names into famous Spanish people names instead?
No, those are locked in there. But you made me think of something, Mary, that I didn't mention earlier, and this is very important. Once you assign a Desmos, you cannot edit that Desmos. I don't know why that just popped into my head now, but that's something to think about. Okay. To me, if I make a mistake, like if I forget to put a text box in there, I'm like, oh, well, great. It's just not there. You cannot edit it unless you go back and reassign it to the class. So that's something to think about ahead of time. I have had to go back. I feel like I'm 4th grade me, like checking my math problems again. So I go back through and I do a quick preview of the lesson just to make sure that everything's in place before I assign it. That way I don't have any kind of faux pas when I'm in person with my kids. But they expect faux pas from me. It's okay. We're human. So if you mess up, it's no big deal.
So if you make an activity and you click publish, you can go back and still edit that activity, but once you assign it to a class, then you can't do anything about it.
Yes, you can't do anything about it for those students that it's assigned to. You can still edit it, right? Okay. But they're kind of locked into that session, so to speak.
So could you maybe just like, if I finished an activity, I assign it to a class, and I'm like, oh crap, forgot to add that question. Could I maybe just like copy and edit that thing and then just like delete the other one maybe? Okay, that could be a way.
Yeah, I've had to do that before. Like I've accidentally assigned it, and I'm like, before they even start it, I'm like, oh my goodness, okay. And then I just undelete the link and then like fix it real quick and then put another link up there. And there's no problem doing that. Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
Alrighty. Okay. Can students access, I see the question here, can students access a Desmos activity once it is complete? It all depends on whether or not you've paused it, right? So I like to leave mine open. I don't mind to leave them open. I only pause them ahead of time, but I leave mine, they on their side of things will be able to click like the home button on Desmos and they can see all of the activities that they've participated in. And like I said, my personal preference is that I leave them open, except for the assessments. Once I've graded the assessments, I go back in and I pause them so that they don't go back through them once they've taken them. So, but again, it just depends on what you're doing. It's optional. Okay.
So Josh was saying something about like, I gave the example of like, if a student missed class, and I want them to go back and maybe just do like specific questions from one of the Desmos activities that they missed. What would I need to do to have them like locked into like those particular questions that I want them to do?
All right, Leah, that's a good question. Okay. So what I do, okay, you can, I know Josh, you do like makeup work a little differently than I do. At the end of the day, I record all of my classes, right? And I upload them into Edpuzzle and I click no skipping. And I have in Canvas, I have like the links to the Desmos for the day. So I'm like, first period, click here, second period, click here, third period, click here. And then underneath it, I have text that says, if you miss class today, click on the Edpuzzle link to use as a guide to complete the Desmos. So that's how I've worked that out. So I don't necessarily have them doing specific questions. I have them go back and watch the class and do the entire Desmos as if they were with me that day.
Gotcha.
I want to make a comment, not just students, but when the teacher is absent. Like I've attended a professional development because I teach math. I've done this before. And so I can be sitting in a professional development meeting and I can watch what my students are doing in class. And I can make comments to them. So they don't think they have a free day because there's a sub there. So we're going back to school 100% tomorrow. Well, I'm going to be absent for my son's wedding for a couple of days. And so I can just put a Desmos up in Spanish. I never thought of it before. But that would allow my students to learn something while the sub is there.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So, and I love it. Like, I absolutely love it because they think that you're not watching, right? Like on our asynchronous days on Wednesdays when I have them read, like, and Leah, this is great. This is a great opportunity because Leah wanted us to show like, how would you do feedback, right? So if you go into, let's say I want to talk to Marjorie, right? And I'm like, oh, yay. Like, oh, Marjorie, like, I think it is yummy too. Like you notice that all you have to do is click right up here next to the inner full screen. You can just click the lesson feedback and then send it directly to the student. So yes, you're right. And you can do this while they're actively working, right? So if you see that they're in the process of doing something that's really, really wrong, you can redirect them or give them some additional help or scaffolding. Or if they're doing something wonderful, you can be like, oh my gosh, like I really like how much you just wrote from that question, you know, so you can give them a little prop too. And I also love that when the students are in there on their screen, it will tell them, like, let's say we go to another, let's say we go to another screen. You notice that for Marjorie, this, when we're on 5, it's like, let's say it's black, right? Okay, it's normal color because it is pertinent to the screen that she's on, right? And then if you're off of the screen, it gets grayed out. and you have a redirect button that says go to screen 5. So they can just hit wherever, like they can hit this button right there, and it will take them to the screen with the pertinent feedback, which I think is really, really nice too. So that hopefully answers that particular question.
Larry, we asked if you could send her a comment. She's Joseph, just on one of the screens.
Oh, yay. Okay.
All right. Let's see. Someone asked.
Sorry, I'm Joseph. I just want to see it from my end what it looks like.
Yay. Okay. All right. So let's see. Okay. Me gusta vainilla, pero me gusta el chocolate. Pero me gusta chocolate más. Let me write that. All right. So what do you see on your end, Leah?
I see a red notification that comes up in the upper right-hand corner.
And click.
And I'm going to click on it, I guess. Can I share my screen?
I don't see why not, right? Okay, I can stop presenting. Yeah, let me stop presenting. Yeah, I stopped presenting, so you should be able to share. Yay. Okay, here it comes.
Here we go.
Yay. Awesome. Yep, okay. And there you go. Yeah, so it takes them right to it. Isn't it beautiful?
It's very nice. I think I just needed this.
Yeah, I love it. And I love, like Mary said, like if they're working, you can send that to them in real time, you know? And I think it makes all the difference, lets you know that you're with them, right? Especially if they're home for the day or you're home for the day. I think it's absolutely wonderful. So yeah. Okay. Let's see. Jen says, let's see, since students have to be using Desmos to get feedback, you can ask them to check for feedback so they know to look. I have had to do that, yes. Like I just did it at the beginning of one of my classes. Once I really understood what feedback, how it worked, then I asked them, I made sure to leave everybody feedback, and I had them go in and share the feedback with me to know that they had received it, right? So we just did a little like how-to at the beginning of one of our classes. All right. Let's see. Anything else? Anything else you can think of, Josh? I'm sure stuff will pop to my head as soon as we're done. Hopefully it wasn't.
I was just trying to type. My computer's going really slow and saying that I'm learning a bunch this session as well. I haven't left feedback at all, and look forward to doing that.
Yeah, I try not to be like I know with CI you're not supposed to like correct grammar and whatnot, but I can't leave that part of myself on the shelf really. Like I like to pop in and be like, no, it's not yo TNH, yo tango. Okay, all right. So I do kind of break the rules, so to speak, but I don't think it's hurting anybody to tell them that. So
I guess the only thing I would add, and I think you're exact. I do the same thing oftentimes verbally. I think if you all have questions and you're not part of the Facebook group, it's an amazing group of people, and so just shoot away and just shoot out some of your sample lesson plans, and people have been providing feedback to others. I know I love feedback. We're all just a community of peers helping peers. So thank you so much, Larry.
I think Dance LKB, you have a question. I saw you raise your hand.
Yes. So did you stop the student Desmos that we were in? Because I got stuck on screen 10, and I don't know, it's probably something that I did because I'm not very tech savvy, but I've been using Desmos and I love it, but it was really nice for me to see it from the student point of view. And I can just imagine a student getting stuck on screen 10 and not being able to get out of it. So even when you had us paced, from 10, 11, 12, I couldn't move to 11. I'm just stuck in screen 10.
I'm not sure.
Why.
Are you Sun Yu? Because I
am Emile Borel.
Okay. Yeah, I don't see you.
Yeah, see, I wonder if something happened. It's just like I'm like I don't know. Okay, well, I'll just hope that never happens in real life.
I have not had it happen in real life. Just FYI. Like I have had nothing but, knock on wood, watch what happens on Monday, right? I have had nothing but a very seamless experience with using Desmos in the classroom. I think Josh, sorry.
I just discovered something. So I'm on a HP device. So on the left-hand side of my screen, it gave me something like back to all activities. So I went back to all activities and there was your lesson. And so now I am able to be in it. So somehow I must have gotten out of it. And I was able to do screen 9 and then or screen 10, and then I got stuck. So now I'm actually back in. Okay.
Yeah, I see you popping. You're on screen 11 now. All right, I can see it on my end.
Sweet. Okay, so something just weird. I must have accidentally clicked something and took me out. All right, thank you. Thank you. Everything was wonderful. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you. De nada. Okay. Let's see. Johanna, what's your question?
Now with that in mind, like because when I use Google Meet or Zoom, many of my students will be kicked out. If that ever happens here, can they join in, or you don't have that? You haven't had that problem.
I haven't had that problem personally. I don't know, Josh, if you've had that problem, but
I've never had that problem. But what I will say is, every once in a while, what happened to Dance LKB happens to my students, where like something funky happens, and every single time that happens, if I say just hit refresh on your page, it works. And so that, if you just have them refresh, not almost always, every time that I've done that, students that haven't had an issue. Some students have internet bandwidth issues, but that's more, Google Meet uses way more bandwidth, or Zoom, than does Desmos. And so if they can't get into Google Meet, they wouldn't be able to do Google Meet and Desmos at the same time. But otherwise, that's the other benefit I've heard of Desmos, is that it uses a lot less bandwidth than Nearpod or Paradeck or any other tool, because it is pretty bare bones.
Yeah. It doesn't ever freeze on me. Like I don't have the same issues, like, because guess what? Like on Paradeck, if Google's down, right? Like if Google's having a problem, then you're not having the lesson for that day. So this is really nice in the fact that it's kind of, again, like I have not had a problem with functionality over the past several months. So
because I have some of my students that have been virtual the whole year, so we use Google Meet. So, and then I have a couple of students that have bad internet, and I'm wondering if I use Google Meet and Desmos, if they're gonna have a problem. And also they're very weak. That they're one of my weakest students, because I don't think they're doing their job. But with this will be. I'm super excited about this, because I would know if they're working or not, because they have the issue. Oh, I cannot show my video, because I say, okay, that's fine, I'll show the video. But sometimes I call their name and they're not there. So, I will let you know what happens.
Yeah, for sure. Like, yeah, most of my students do not, none of my students have their video on, but I can see them actively engaged with me, and with that little card system that I told you about, like, they know they're going to get called on, like just because they're there with their screen off doesn't mean I'm not going to try to engage with them in the class either. So it's, and again, I have a running point system. I'm constantly, like, I do a little reward at the end of every 9 weeks for the class with the highest point total. And if they are responding to me in a really nice way, I'll give them a point. Like if they don't just answer with like a 1-word answer or something. And then if they ask me a question, I give them 2 points. And if they ask somebody else in the question, or somebody else in the class a question, I give the class 2 points. So I've kind of given them that incentive to practice engaging with one another. Like that's the culture in my classroom, is like, I want everybody to be not just listening, but interacting with one another, and not just interacting with me. Okay. So it's just how I have mine set up. We basically just talk nonstop. And that brings me to why I don't use stepping stones. Like I love stepping stones, but stepping stones is honestly a bit too structured for me. Like I can have one question up there and spend 45 minutes on one question, depending on the threads and the answers that the kids have given me. You know, like if they say something interesting, like my dad and I were obsessed with the WWE match that was on TV last night. Like, oh, perfect. Let's start talking about some wrestling, right? Like, let's figure out who else in the class also watches wrestling. Let's see if they have their own, you know, their own favorite. So I like the fact that if I only want to do a couple of screens in Desmos and then go into the write and discuss, I can do that. You know, as opposed to feeling like I'm not getting through those stepping stone lessons. So yeah. Perfect. All right. I'm looking. Yay. Okay. All right. Yes, Leah, your stuff is wonderful, as you can tell. Like I love the way that you set up that reading assessment. I'm like, and my students loved it. They're like, Ms. Buckner, can we do it this way all the time? Because I was having them like do almost full on translations. And they're like, we really like just picking out those 5 things that we know. I'm like, absolutely. Like, I'm not going to change it. And then the interactions that they had to do as if the questions were a discussion board. Oh my goodness, I got the best responses. So I am hooked. So thank you very much for posting that and sharing it. It was really, really wonderful. Super easy to grade. Yes. Jen, the assessment, Leah shared it a while back. It's been a while. Like I had tagged it and saved it into my activities to come back to when I was on my assessment cycle. So it is like my version of it is in the shared Google Doc. And I'm sure Leah can, yeah, okay. So she can share it too. But mine is in the one, like if you go into the Google Doc, you'll see under my name, it'll say like assessment week. And when you click on those assessments, you'll see them. Yay.
Thank you, Hillary.
Oh, you're very welcome.
I'll stop typing. But
No,
thank you.
you're fine. No, you're fine.
I was actually really excited to even come to the meet today. I was like, oh my God, I can actually like see your face and talk to you and be like, talk to you and Josh. Like, oh my God. Like, thank you.
That's what I said to him yesterday. I was like, you know what? It's really important that we are not just like bots, you know, responding. We're real human beings that are in the trenches with everybody else, just trying to figure this out. And I love seeing people and talking to people, you know, like getting a really good feel for who's who, you know, because goodness knows we've kind of lost that in the past year, you know. So,
yeah, absolutely. What I did, Hillary, I adapted yours, and I used yours that you adapted for mine, and now I'm like, I'm in love with yours. So I'm like, I'll share that one really quick. I want to try to find it.
Cool. All right, wonderful. So you got a good feel for like the kind of stuff that we talk about. Like,
oh my God, that last slide, just collecting everybody's like answers. I was like, oh my God. I was like, thank God. It's so much easier. It's so much easier to like, it's like much easier.
Yeah. And it is kind of complicated. You know, I feel like today it would be really complicated to explain, but I think that we need to probably do, and Josh, I know you'll agree with this, like we probably need to do another webinar that maybe just explains that table, like how to code for the different kinds of questions that we do. You know what I forgot to do today? I forgot to do a card sort. I had that on my to-do list, okay? But it's not hard. No, not at all. Okay, all right, yay. Okay, you put a bunch of pre-created activities, so good there.
Yes, link to that Google Doc that's in the Facebook page. And I'm thinking that I should at least put up in the how-to/tutorial Google Doc in the Facebook page. I'll put descriptions of how to do the auto-populate that table at the end. So
okay.
If they want, they can check that as well.
Yay.
And card sorts in there as well. So if you just go to the Facebook page or any of these documents that I've been sharing, there's a link to the other documents. So I'll go through and add those. I'll add that tutorial for the auto-populate, and then there's already a card sort description in there.
Okay, good. All right, yay. Let's see. Senorita Thornton says, I forgot to ask, can you add a video to your activity? I know that there is an option to link videos, but I have not played around with that. So, Josh, do you know? I think you're on mute. There you go.
So,
Okay.
short answer, I don't know, but I have seen in other people's activities that they are doing that. So that would be something I would suggest. Just jump into the Facebook group and ask on there. And I'm sure someone will get back to you in a matter of minutes or hours.
Yes, what Dance LKB said, I have been linking any and all videos in the notes if I have a video that they need to see. So, and then James and I were talking before this too about audio files. Like somebody just posted a way to add an audio file to an image, which I think would be really great for like pronunciation, or you could do asynchronous dictation, things like that. So, or listening assessments. So it's I'm going to be diving into that too to see what that looks like. But first and foremost, I'm going to figure out how to add more colors to my sketch because that's really what I want. That's coming. That's on my to-do for today. So I'll share that out once I figure it out too. Hopefully you can just copy it in and you're good to go. So once I code it. All right. Anything else, Josh? What do you think? No? All right. I think we're good to go. All right, yay. All right, so if there's no further questions, then I say we adjourn the webinar. It took 2 hours as opposed to 1, but that's okay because I think this was very, very informative, right? So on all accounts. So I really appreciate everyone who showed up. I appreciate Josh for setting this up. And I hope all of you have a beautiful rest of your Sunday and that the week goes well. Okay. All right. Adios. All right.